Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Global Desi Women podcast. I'm so excited to be back in the studio after a little bit of a break from podcasting. But to be honest, stepping away gave us time to reflect, reset, and reimagine what this platform can become. And I'm so happy to say that we're coming back stronger than ever. We're going to have more episodes, more powerful conversations, more guests from all around the world like before, and many new topics that truly matters to Desi women. Topics like career, our families, our health, our mental health, our ambitions, and our purpose. For those who are new to our channel and are tuning in for the first time, I'm your host, Arti Salanki, a real estate broker at Living Large Realty, a business coach who is deeply passionate about empowering women to grow with clarity and confidence. Today's show is brought to you by Om Enterprise Inc., one stop IT managed service and VoIP service provider. Their information will be in the podcast description, so please do check that out. And as always, I'm joined by my amazing co host, Bhavana Shelley, an excellent business analyst who brings such a sharp, strategic, and practical perspective to every conversation. So, welcome back and thank you for your time, Bhavana. So today's episode is especially meaningful because we are talking about healthcare, service, education, and purpose all through the lens of a Desi woman's journey. And it is our honor to welcome our guest, Jignasa Harish. Jignasa, it is so nice of you to join our podcast and we welcome you and thank you for your time.
You're so welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yes. Please share us a little bit about your journey and a little bit insight about, how you started with the nursing.
Absolutely. When I was deciding on a career, it was either going to be being a teacher or it was going to be a nurse. So I decided that, being nursing, I can have the best of the both worlds where I can take care of people as well as I can teach too, because there's just so many vast different things that you can do with that scope. And so I decided to go into nursing, and I have to tell you, I have not regretted it for 1 minute. I've been now a nurse for over 25 years, and I've done all different kinds of nursing. Started out, working in a nursing home, hospitals. I worked in the operating room, and now my recent journey is extremely special because what I do now is I do a lot of education. And what I'm finding is that there's so many people in this world who just especially in our community, who just don't know the basic things about what they can do, just some simple changes that they can bring to their life and they can really turn around. And it could be simple things like, changing their diet or even following up with a physician. So I would love to, get that knowledge out there to a lot of our listeners.
Perfect. Yeah, this is so perfect. So to just start out with, let's start with exactly what dialysis is, and when does a person need it? Because I think people who, like we were having the conversation yesterday, Jignasa, that we don't really know of what goes on until we are there. Like if nobody's going to know about dialysis until they have to get one, and they'll be like, okay, now what is this? So it's something that not everybody knows about it, right? So let's start with that. What exactly dialysis is, and when does a person need it?
Absolutely. So, first of all, we all have, most of us are born with two kidneys. Some people are born only with one. So, our kidneys are responsible to get rid of anything extra that we don't need in our body, like fluid, any kind of toxins that we don't need. Our kidneys are responsible to get rid of them. Now, different reasons that people could be going through, their kidneys may be failing. Some people, we have had some patients who are babies, and they may be like that because they're born premature and their kidneys never develop. So then they need to start dialysis. So basically, dialysis is taking the work up of what your kidneys would be doing. The good thing is, that if someone has to do dialysis, at least there is a treatment that you could do if this is a kidney issue that you have, which is a rarity because sometimes some of the organs cannot be replaced with some of the treatment. But at least with kidneys, you can do this treatment and you can still have a sustainable life.
Yeah. But is this permanent or it can be done just temporary some cases?
No, so it depends. There are a couple of different reasons as to why someone's kidney may be failing. So the number one cause for kidney disease is diabetes.
Mm,
Unfortunately, we know in this world, throughout the whole continent, most of us, a lot of us have diabetes.
wow.
And then, especially when it's not in well control, that can really attack your kidneys and just have them not work over a period of time. Second reason, if why your kidneys fail, is high blood pressure, which is another common thing that a lot of people have in this world. And then there are some people who are either born for genetic reasons. So if the kidney disease is caused for any of these reasons, then yes, you will need to do dialysis until you get a kidney transplant. That's the other option that you have. And when you get a kidney transplant and that kidney is working, then in that case, you would not need dialysis. Now, especially when COVID happened. So that was a virus a lot of people didn't know about. And a lot of the nephrologists or the kidney doctors were finding out that the virus actually attacked their kidneys, where it shut it down.
Mm,
However, where they got some temporary dialysis treatments in the hospital, once the virus got better, then they were coming off of dialysis. So they did not need to be on dialysis anymore. But that is more of a rarity thing. Sometimes also like people will have certain kind of things like a cardiac or like a heart condition in which they may have like a heart attack or something in which it may not have their kidneys work temporarily and it may kick back. So those are kind of things is it depends. But
yes.
usually if it's like what they call like an acute accident, something that just comes as like an sudden onset, then sometimes your kidneys function will return.
Wow.
So there is a myth like, people are so afraid when the doctors recommend, "Oh, you're gonna have to go through dialysis." So as a nurse who's been working really, inside and out with this kind of treatment, what would you give them a message if they ever have to go on to the dialysis? Because a lot of time people don't even attempt it because they're just so afraid that, "Oh, it's a permanent, you don't never get better." Or there are so many myths or kind of things that people put in their head. So what
Yeah.
is the message that you would give it to those people?
So one of the things that I also do is educate people, whether it's in my my current job or the nephrologist or the kidney doctors will often ask their patients to come to me for education. My class runs for over 2 hours. Now, this is the kind of time that the nephrologists don't have time to spend with a lot of these patients. One of the first thing that I tell them is that, that you are diagnosed with this disease, which is what they call CKD, chronic kidney disease. So if you're diagnosed with this, you can still have a good quality of life, which is true. So now at least we are lucky that we live where we have options for different kinds of dialysis. So there's three different kinds of dialysis. There's one that you can do in the facility, there's two ways that you can actually do in your own home. So you have options. So even if you have to do it, so a lot of our patients who are working, they will choose the home option because it is done more frequently, it is more gentle, and therefore they can still continue to have a good quality of life of continue to work.
Mm,
Or even if they are retired and they want to enjoy other activities, they want to spend time with their family, whatever it may be, whatever they enjoy, they want to travel. You can do all of those things. So it is not the end. And you're absolutely right, Bhavna, that when the patients they come into my class, oftentimes they don't want to come because they're so
yeah.
very afraid of finding out like, oh my God, if I go to this class, I'm going to find out that this is the end. But it is really not the end. If anything, we are going to show you a way of how you can continue on with your life and still be able to enjoy it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the Google showed me the number one myth was that it's the end of the life if they hear the word dialysis. That's what Google showed me when I was doing my little bit of a research today. And I was like, wow, really? But at what point, with this conversation, it makes me think that at what point should someone ask their doctor about kidney functions or, so that if there is anything that they do need any dialysis or but before the dialysis at on a regular basis we do like our annual checkup, right? And they do kidney functions, they check it once a year. But is there any symptoms or anything that we have to look out for that maybe we can ask that question in between our annual exams that, hey, you know what, should we do a kidney function check again or what's going on with my body?
Absolutely. So, if you have either diabetes or high blood pressure, number one, you really want to take care of yourself, making sure that you follow your doctor's guidance, right? Oftentimes, the endocrinologist, which is the diabetes doctor, will ask you to go and see a nephrologist, especially if they're thinking that maybe your kidney function is getting worse. However, you don't have to wait for them to tell you, know what your numbers are. So, there are 5 stages of kidney disease. One of the easiest way that you can tell as to what stage you're in is by looking at when you get your blood work, look for the word GFR. So that stands for glomerular filtration rate. Basically, it's just telling you what is the percentage of your kidney is still working. So unfortunately, the lower the number, that means your kidneys are not functioning as much. So anybody who is less than 30, you definitely should be consulting a kidney doctor. So that is the easiest way, to check that. Now, how often do you get that done? It really depends upon what is going on with you. Like, if you are a diabetic and you also have high blood pressure and you have some kind of heart disease. All if you have more of the comorbidities, you definitely should be following up with your physician. And then just do whatever you can. And maybe, your physician might be able to give you some resources as to like, what kind of education class that you can attend. So that is the first start. Second
Okay.
start is controlling your salt. All of us. I mean, like we live in this world where everything is available at a salt. And not only that, but just even going out to the restaurants, right? Like who doesn't want to enjoy that? Or if we're getting food catered, we are, everything, all of that stuff has so much salt in it.
Yeah, I think
So
especially
one of the
Desis,
things that I
you eat
educate.
a lot of salt, right?
Yes,
We eat a
I
lot of
know.
salt.
That is right. A lot of salt. Yeah. So, especially living in the United States, we have that, that benefit in which our FDA requires every food item to be having that nutritional label. So, one of the easiest way, if you want to find out if something is high in salt, there's a very easy way to look at it. So, you look at the food nutritional label, you want to follow the serving size, and you want to look at the calorie count. So, if the calories are 100 calories, and then you want to look at the sodium count. If that sodium count number is higher than your calorie count, that means that item is high in salt. So
Okay, so
that
then it's
is
salt.
easiest way to check it, like especially when you're buying food. So, this way you can cut out some of those things which are very high in salt.
Yeah, maybe potato chips, I'm
You know
guessing.
how liver disease is very silent. You really don't know until it kind of gives up, right?
Mhm.
So are there with kidney diseases, are there apart from looking at your stats and your reports and maybe watching out your diabetes and stuff,
Mhm.
are there any that your kidney is kind of giving up or it's not functioning correctly? What is the first thing that you would see that, hey, that's a flag?
Yeah. So everybody is extremely different in this. So even like when your kidneys are failing, your doctors will, different doctors will determine at what points you should really be starting. But what I can say is that one of the signs where, you're having, you probably will be able to see it is seeing a lot of swelling. So that may be in your feet. And if you're really, really towards the end of the kidney disease, where like you literally have to start some kind of a treatment, you will start noticing that swelling everywhere. And oftentimes, people will be hospitalized because of pneumonia, because now that fluid is in your lungs. So,
Pretty
that
much
time
like
they will be able to see us.
liver. It's pretty much like liver disease because even in liver disease, the feet swell and the waters, gets into your
Mhm.
body and everything. It sounds like both the symptoms are pretty similar.
It is, but in kidney disease, you also have other things like, in addition to the swelling, you will also like this is I'm talking about more latter part, like when you're towards the end of when your kidneys are really not functioning. You may get a foggy brain in which, like, you're not able to think very clearly. Food that you used to love to eat maybe doesn't taste that great because now you have a metallic taste in your mouth, and that is
Mm.
from all the toxins being built up. You may be more confused, you're not thinking very clearly. And of course, towards the very, very end is nausea and vomiting also happening. And that is usually your body's trying to get rid of all the extra toxins where your kidneys used to do before. Yeah. So those are some of and it is very similar to the liver disease like you were describing.
Yeah. So once a patient is on dialysis, is there any certain kind of symptoms or any changes in their body that they have to closely pay attention to? Like once they're already on dialysis, do they still have to be like very careful? Like, okay, this is happening. I should notify
Absolutely.
my doctor. What are those?
Yeah. So when you're on dialysis, depending upon what kind of treatment you're doing, whether you're in the facility or you're doing your home treatments. So definitely you're going to have a dietary restrictions because when you're in the facility, most of the time people are doing their treatments 3 times a week. So remember when your kidneys were working, they full time, they were working 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. You're trying to do that same job now in 3 days. And so it is very, very taxing. So therefore, you will have more restrictions about how much fluid that you're going to be drinking. Also, what kind of foods that you can eat, because now the machine is doing the work of getting rid of all that extra fluid and getting rid of all the stuff that you don't need that that you shouldn't have floating around. So, but they're trying to do that in 3 days. So it is a little bit. So you're going to have more restrictions. So majority of the times most of the dialysis facilities will have a dietitian and they will review the patient's blood work and they'll say, okay, you know what, this is where you need to restrict. And they will definitely educate them. And usually the nephrologist also will continue to educate them as well.
So how often do they have to do the dialysis? Is it like weekly that they have to come in or they have like how often do they do it?
Yeah. So let me talk about that. So there's 3 different kinds of dialysis. So there's hemodialysis, which gets done in a facility that utilizes an outside filter, and usually you will have an access, which is either in your arm or in your chest, a catheter, and you will go there to the facility 3 times a week. And each treatment is anywhere between 3 to 4 hours. Some people will have more. If
Wow.
you are very non-compliant and you're drinking too much, then each treatment will be, it will depend upon how long it takes for them to remove the fluid off of you. And they can't just do it like just very, very suddenly because some people's body doesn't react very well to it. So usually it's done like on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or like a Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. So almost like every other day kind of thing. So that is the hemodialysis that gets done usually in a facility. A nurse or a technician will be taking care of you. They'll be hooking you up to the machine and programming the machine and get it done.
Mm,
So that and you will continue to do that for the rest of your life unless
mm,
you get a kidney transplant. Because without that, if you're on dialysis, you're not usually coming off unless, of course, like I said, it's an acute
mm,
reason as to why. The other kind of dialysis that you can do is called home hemodialysis, which is very similar to what is done in the facility, but is done in your home. So again, same thing. You have an access that's either in your arm or in your chest. And this kind of treatment is also utilizes a filter, but the machine is much smaller. And you will be doing that about 5 times a week. And you will be doing that about 2 to 3 hours, depending upon what your doctor tells you. This kind of treatment is preferred because it is similar to doing more frequently, more cleaning out, removing fluid every day, and also is more gentle.
all
The
right.
last kind of dialysis is called peritoneal dialysis, which utilizes your abdomen. We all are born with a filter, which is they also sometimes calls it as a third kidney. So they'll put a catheter in your stomach and it will uses sugar water or dextrose solution to do this treatment. And most of the time, people are doing this overnight because it is done over 8 to 10 hours, and that gets done 7 days a week. Now, if you were to ask any of the medical professional who are in this profession of dialysis or a kidney doctor, a
Hmm.
lot of them will choose either peritoneal dialysis or home hemodialysis because it has many more clinical benefits because you're cleaning out your body every day
Yeah.
or 5 times a week or and removing your fluid every day. So
Yeah.
that also it's beneficial in that way.
Yeah. I guess it makes sense because you're removing the toxins more frequently than just keeping it and coming
Yes,
only for 3 times a week. So it just flushes away faster than
correct.
before.
So Jignasa, you said there's gonna be an access. So is there kind of like a free, some sort of surgery that they insert some sort of machine in their body that they can have external access? What does that access means?
Yeah. So the access what we talk about is like, let's say someone just ends up crashing in the hospital. And they find out, okay, you need to start dialysis right now because without that, you're not going to be able to survive. So that the first access they'll put in is what they call a catheter, which usually goes to the right side of your chest. This is not the most preferred access because it has a higher chances of infection if not well taken care of. The lines through that on the other end goes directly into your heart. So a lot of the times the doctors don't want that access around for a long time. So that is the first access. However, the benefit of that access is that you can start using it immediately, meaning that the access goes in, we can start, cleaning and removing the fluid and toxins immediately so that we can stabilize a patient very fast. However, like I said, because of the higher infection chances, the doctors don't really want that. So the other access for hemodialysis is what we call a fistula. So basically that goes into your arm. So for that, they'll do like a Doppler or an ultrasound of your arm and they'll check to see which arm has the best circulation. And then there will be a surgery that requires that usually the vascular surgeon will perform that surgery. It's usually like a 45-minute surgery. You go home the same day. However, that access that the fistula that they create, you cannot start using it immediately. It has to mature. And for the maturation, it takes anywhere between 6 to 8 weeks. Only then you can start using that. Yeah.
Yeah. So the
And
person
That
then
who
for
has,
that follows the actual treatment that you go to the doctor, you go to the endocrinologist, and then the kidney doctor will suggest to go through the whole procedure and they officially get put in that access and it
correct.
takes time before
Yeah.
they
yeah,
can get the dialysis. The other one is mostly ER related. They put
Yes.
the catheter in and then start dialysis. Okay.
Right.
Makes
yeah,
sense.
Yeah.
yeah.
Sense. Wow.
And that's exactly what I was trying to say. That that sounds like the one that there's no time to wait for the 6 to 8 weeks to heal. Then they have to do this one.
Yes. They have to do it. Right. Right.
And
And
how
then, of
much
course,
alcohol puts your kidneys to risk?
so it's not really the alcohol. I mean, of course, like if you are really way overdoing it, I think your liver will probably go first before your kidneys will. But
Okay.
oftentimes we've seen patients like, who've had liver issues, they will also develop kidney issues as well. But I mean, I think that if anything else is usually like, what kind of things, like most like diabetes, high blood sugar, like if you are a diabetic and you are not maintaining that A1C within the normal range, what your doctor is recommending, then most definitely, you're going to have issues down the line. So it really, really depends upon that. And then also just drinking in general, like sodas. I mean, as much as wonderful how great they taste, but they're
Yeah.
awful for you. Really, really awful for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So besides giving the education on how the whole process is and how everything is going to work, do you also have to support the patient emotionally or their family
Yeah.
members? Because I guess the patient comes in with somebody most of the time, along with a family member. And I feel the family is more overwhelmed than the patient is sometimes. Like, how do you
Absolutely.
take care of that?
So when I first started with the company that I'm working, I started out as a peritoneal dialysis nurse. So basically, I was educating. So the physicians would send their patients to me. And these patients have already decided that they're going to be doing peritoneal dialysis, which is the dialysis that you do with a catheter in your stomach using the sugar water. So I would actually teach the patients how to do this at home. So, they would be with me anywhere between 8 to 10 days, and I would be giving them the treatment as well as a training. But before they come to me, I would, be in touch with them, and I would try to find out, okay, who's going to be your care partner? There would be times when we've had patients with multiple care partners, and then we've had some patients who are in their 80s and 90s, they have nobody. And but the beauty of this kind of dialysis is that they are able to do this for themselves, which is the most wonderful thing that they can do. As long as that we teach them, we monitor them. So absolutely, having, and we've noticed that any patients who have family support, those are the ones who do really well, because you're going to have those ups and downs, right? I mean, just like sometimes when we're not feeling well, sometimes we've like we're down and under, but at least we're going to get better, and then you get your energy back. But like, imagine these patients, they're going through this every single day.
Mm.
So if they, and oftentimes we also have a social worker who would be part of our team. And then we identify, like, if we're seeing certain things, nobody's going to come out to you and say, hey, I'm depressed. But we have to look out for the signs and symptoms of depression. So we start talking to them about that. And of course, bringing the whole team in, which is the dietitian, the social worker, and of course, your doctor as well, and the nurse.
Yeah. So
Do
does
you
this
also
any
take them to the journey of like a kidney transplant, or like
Yes.
how, and what is the percentages from what you've seen so far, the patients who come in on dialysis and then they ultimately get kidney transplant to be on their own?
So, transplant in the United States, well, I can only say like within our region, there is quite a bit of wait. So, oftentimes people will come and say, well, I'm just going to wait for a transplant. Unfortunately, you can't.
Mm.
Because in the United States, depending upon where you live, you could be waiting up to 7 to 8 years before you can get matched for a what they call a deceased donor, meaning you're waiting for someone to give you who has passed away. But if you have a donor, who, if you have either a family member, a friend, or someone who is willing to donate that kidney, then the process is much quicker. Usually everybody will get tested, and they'll have to make sure that everybody's a match. And based on that, from A to Z, it takes about 6 months if you have a donor. But if you're going to be waiting for someone to give you, then it could be a longer time. And yeah, absolutely. We talk to our patients about that all the time. And that was one of always my first focus is, are you already on the transplant list? So when I was talking about that GFR, the glomerular filtration rate, if in the United States, if your GFR is less than 25, then you can start talking to your kidney doctor about a transplant and see. And then when you're at 20, even though you haven't started dialysis, you can get a transplant evaluation with a
Mm.
transplant.
Okay. So does dialysis interfere, or I would say restrict your travel, or any kind of a lifestyle that because a lot of we all like to travel, and does that kind of like stop patients from doing that?
Yeah. So for us in the US, if you're doing in center dialysis, then let's say you want to go outside of the country. So the insurance companies will not pay because this is considered medication and treatments. Any medical treatment outside of the country is not covered. So sometimes some patients will have to pay out of pocket. So when you have to pay out of pocket, what do? They cut back their treatments because you're paying per treatment. So it becomes a little bit more expensive. So, it depends on where they're going. I've seen many of our Desi patients who they go to India, and because they're paying out of pocket, now instead of them doing 3 times a week here, they're doing it maybe only twice a week over there, which is not a great idea because you're causing a lot of damage to your heart. But if this is what you can afford, at least it's better than, nothing. I've seen people do that. However, if you do the home hemodialysis or home peritoneal dialysis, that one you can just continue to do and travel, which is the nice advantage to have for the home dialysis. I mean, I've had patients who've gone to many other countries, they've taken cruises and they've continued and still be able to enjoy their trip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that sounds more better because if the restriction of like, you know, going to the center every 3 times a week and then not being able to go anywhere or travel, and it's a long wait for the kidney transplant anyway. So, you know, you kind of like stuck you for that many years. So it's good that if they're doing the treatment by themselves, then at least they have the freedom of traveling and doing it, having their own life as what they want to do. So
Absolutely.
that's good to
Yeah.
know.
That's a difficult question, but I guess I do want to ask is what is considered a life expectancy once you are diagnosed with both the kidney failed and you're on a permanent dialysis? What is after that? Like how long? I mean, I understand they can continue doing this. They can continue if they don't
Mhm.
get can't wait 8 years. So I don't know if what would be the life expectancy that is considered after you're on
Yeah.
a dialysis.
Absolutely. So it really depends upon what other things is going on with you. So unfortunately, we've had some patients who've had heart conditions, which
Dang.
has been so badly damaged because of the fluid that has been accumulated in their system over a long period of time because maybe they were not very compliant or they have some kind of issue in which they accumulate fluid all the time. One of the physicians I used to work with always used to tell her patients that you are never going to die of dialysis. If anything, it's going to be all the other comorbidities, like for example, dying from some kind of issues or with from diabetes, or dying having a heart attack because you were not controlling your blood pressure or something else is going on. So I can say that if you follow your doctor's recommendations, I would definitely highly do that, and you do the best that you can, and really just follow that, and then at the end it really really depends upon your comorbidities. But if this is the only thing that you have, we recently celebrated actually a patient who has been on HHD, home hemodialysis, for the last 40 years. 40. Yes.
Wow.
Exactly.
Wow.
And this man, he actually crashed into dialysis when he was in his 20s, and his mom was taking care of him. And he just, his mom, and then after, when he got married later on in life, his wife took over that. And now he's still on it. So it's like we're beyond 40 years for him. And he has had a full life and he has been working all his life. So it's really,
He
really
hasn't
amazing.
tried kidney transplant?
So he got a kidney transplant and then it failed. So even unfortunately, even kidney transplant has even
They
those kidney transplanted kidneys have a life. On average, it's about 10 to 12 years. Some people it is longer, some people is less. It totally, totally depends on different things.
Wow. Wow.
So
Yeah.
it truly is a myth when people say, "Oh, once they're in dialysis, forget it." That
Yeah.
that is a myth. You
It
just broke that.
really is a myth. I wish I could just shout it out there to the world that if your doctor tells you tomorrow that you need to start dialysis, just think of which kind of dialysis you want to do and go on with your life. And I tell everybody that whoever does have to start, that this is something that you just have to fit into your life and not think that, oh, do I have to do this? And
Mm.
you can still have a good quality of life as well.
Yeah. So if there was one thing you want to tell the listeners and want them to remember, what would it be?
I would say that, take care of yourself. But if this is something that is happening in your life, you will still be okay. You will still be fine. You can still have a good quality of life for sure.
Yes, amazing, amazing. Jignasa, thank you so much for sharing your journey, your insights, and it's such an educational topic, and I'm so glad we connected, and we appreciate your time and knowledge that you've shared today at Global Desi Women. So truly, thank you again,
You're welcome.
and thank you for the dedication to the service and you your education, your mentorship. It's truly inspiring. So that's really
Thank you.
commendable. That's very nice. And if I just want to say that if to our listeners, if you are a brand, organization, or a business that aligns with our mission and would like to partner with us, we would love to hear from you. For sponsorship details, or you can reach out to us and through our contact information in our notes. If you're a professional entrepreneur or change maker, or you have a story to share, we would love for you to come as a guest on our Global Desi Women podcast. We will welcome you and connect with us. So that's all for today. Thank you for being a part of our community. Until next time, stay informed, stay empowered, and continue to support each other. Thank you. Thank you, ladies.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.